All right, y'all. Well, for a few more days, I am in exile here because I went and recorded a video about a reporter who did horrible things to kids, and you can't do that on YouTube. That's a big no-no. You can't say bad things about reporters who do bad things to kids on YouTube. You should know better than that. So, my future on YouTube, I don't know what all it's going to be right now. I guess maybe I'll stick around, but we'll see. Anyway, I thought I would record something today that caught my mind, caught my interest as I was reading Tom O'Neill's book about the Charles Manson investigation and the cover-up involving the state prosecutor Bugliosi, Steve Bugliosi. That is the first name, Steve. I don't remember if that's for sure if that's his first name, but his last name is Bugliosi. He's Italian, and he apparently did some bad things. He cut some corners and was not a good guy, if the book is to be believed. And I'm finding the book to be rather credible. But I think the most interesting thing about the book is the suggestion that Manson was some kind of federal asset. That perhaps he was an FBI asset, that he was given a certain kind of protection. There's plenty of evidence of that, that he was sort of he and his followers were just allowed to occupy their space and do their thing, and that maybe the this was all backed up out because of the COINTELPRO program of the FBI, which was at the time targeting black revolutionary groups, civil rights groups, and so forth. And because Manson and his followers were hostile to the black revolutionary groups, because Manson's whole ideology was that there's going to be a huge race war, and the blacks would win, but then he and his followers would emerge and conquer the blacks, and be the new kings and queens of the world. That was what he thought would go down. That was Helter Skelter in his mind, which the book doesn't dispute, but it does dispute that the killings were done out of a desire to kick off Helter Skelter. Anyway, interesting book. But what I wanted to talk about here is the whole, the intriguing, again, notion that if Manson were some kind of federal asset or informant, which I think it's quite possible that he was. I think it seems a credible case can very much be made given some of the things, after reading this book and when you see the ways in which he was basically given free rein to do his thing, and was also counseled by people who were CIA affiliated, who were administering LSD in the what's it called, the Haight-Ashbury district during the Summer of Love. How Manson was allowed to go up there and allowed to be treated and was given access to lots of drugs, and that he drugged his followers. And of course, we see in Manson and his cult a microcosm of what the CIA was doing on a more macro level. The CIA was looking for ways to brainwash people, to get people to do what they wanted them to do, with the ostensible pretense that this was the ends justify the means, and that they were the good guys. They were fighting against communism and fighting for freedom and fighting for America and stuff. So here's something that for me, comes is kind of a corollary of all of that, and that's something that gets reported that Manson and his followers often did. Was something that they called creepy crawling. Manson had this kind of this hippie language and he coined a lot of terms and phrases and so forth, and gave it his own sort of spin. He was he was marketing himself in some ways. He was adjusting his own image to appeal to these lost hippie girls mostly, and he had immense charisma and the ability to bring them under his sway, but he also had the help of massive doses of LSD, which the CIA liked because it was thought of as a way to make people more suggestible. And this is something really to be kept in mind for everybody who advocates for LSD as some kind of like, oh yeah, your mind is freed when you take it, and you see reality in a whole different way. Well, the whole notion of LSD as a means of spiritual freedom, there's kind of a sour note that is sounded when you look into the fact that a group like the CIA were the first ones to use LSD. They basically introduced LSD. LSD was the CIA's drug. And so a lot of the proponents of LSD, people like Timothy Leary or Ken Kesey or others were very likely assets as well. And I think, this has been established elsewhere. These people who are supposed to represent the counterculture. Well, the counterculture was largely an astroturf phenomenon. Again, going back to the seminal book Weird Scenes in the Canyon, which I read before I read Tom O'Neill's book on Manson. Anyway, something little about or a corollary from all of this. They did this thing called creepy crawling, and what Manson called creepy crawling was they would sneak into people's houses. Sometimes when they were there at night and they were sleeping, or sometimes when they were away, and they would just steal little things, or just maybe eat some stuff out of the refrigerator. Rearrange the chairs, the furniture in some way, so that when the people who lived there woke up, they would see somebody had been in the house, and things looked different. But why were they coming in? And that's the kind of thing that really messes with your mind, and makes you sound crazy. If you call the police and say, well, I think people broke into my house, what did they do? Well, they didn't really steal anything or anything much. They just rearranged my furniture. And then the police are going to be saying, are you sure? Are you sure you didn't do that yourself and just forget about it? Are you maybe being a little paranoid here? I mean, and this is the reason why I bring this up is because many people who report themselves being targeted individuals, or TIs, they talk about things like this happening to them. Now, I'm not saying everyone who claims to be a TI is legitimate. I'm sure there are some who, are maybe just schizophrenic or whatever. But I think if you take it on a case-by-case basis, I think, there are some definite legitimate TIs out there. I believe that. Who, for one reason or another, maybe they've gotten on the bad side of someone powerful, or maybe, I don't know, maybe they've just been chosen for some reason, for some random reason, just to be messed with, just to be a guinea pig. Just, let's see what happens if we just mess with this person. Is it going to make him crack? Is he going to go nuts? Will he get angry? Will we see a side of him, that comes out that wouldn't ordinarily come out? It's a psychological experiment. It's a psyop. That's a psyop in its purest form. So I find it interesting that when you see these cults that are supposed to be just set off by themselves, their own little things, like Manson and his followers were this just little island of people. But on the other hand, they were well known in L.A. and they were friends with, Manson had made friends with some celebrities in the music biz, and he'd even gotten some of his songs recorded by in the studio of the Beach Boys. He befriended Dennis Wilson of the Beach Boys. There there were a lot of inroads made, and there were a lot of celebrity connections. So anyway, a lot to suggest that, again, Manson was perhaps, not just a little thing off, a little weird phenomenon off on his own, not just some crazy guy with a bunch of crazy followers, but perhaps was set up in some way, or was, what you would call an asset, or an informant, and that this was this group was a created group. This group was created to exist in order to serve whatever purposes they were meant to serve. But again, the thing that really sticks with me, and what I wanted to emphasize in this video, is the extent to which we see, whether it's Manson's group or some other cult like Scientology, or Jim Jones, or other groups. We see them engaging in these kind of ruthless tactics, or which they seem to just have honed down to a T, like especially Scientologists. They've really got it down. I mean, they're really great at inflicting psychological terror in people. They seem to just have access to a lot of information as far as that goes. So where does that come from? I don't believe that people do just go off on their own. I mean, maybe it could happen in some cases. Somebody just goes off on his own and discovers all these things. But maybe they have access to intelligence sources. And the fact that Manson and his people were doing things like what TIs, targeted individuals, talk about having done to them, is certainly interesting. And that he called it creepy crawling, but it's something that it's the same phenomenon that people report happening to them when they think they're just being messed with. So there's lots more to be gleaned from this book, believe me, and I do recommend it. But those are my thoughts for today. I didn't say anything bad about any reporters who did terrible things to children, so I think this video should be okay as far as YouTube goes. But we'll see. Anyway, thanks for watching. Talk to y'all soon.